Good. Okay. Okay, call to order. It is exactly 7. Call to order. Mr. Mariola.
Here.
Mrs. Matthews.
Here.
Howard. Here. Mr. Singh.
Here.
Here. And we can stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looks like we have a lot of really good things coming up, and we want to welcome everybody here tonight. It's a nice crowd, and Dr. Jones, I think I'm going to turn it over to you for the presentations.
Okay, thanks, Mrs. Matthews. First, we should all feel honored to have with us today to do a presentation for the Board of Education, Lance Corporal Grant Coy of the United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Coy.
First off, I'd like to thank everybody for having me here tonight. It's my honor. And I'd like to present this flag to Stow City Schools, its faculty and students. I'd like to thank you guys for your support in Operation Enduring Freedom. And from myself and the Marines of 1st Platoon, India Company, 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines, we all thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you may. I have a certificate that goes with this, signed by commanding officer and the first sergeant of India Company.
I might mess up exactly what this was. The certificate of authenticity. This is to certify that this flag was flown on behalf of Stow City Schools by Lance Corporal Grant Coy, and this is Garmshire District, Southern Helmand Province, Afghanistan, on this 27th day of February 2011. I'd like to speak for the citizens of Stow and Munroe Falls, the Board of Education, and everyone involved with the school district, that we sincerely appreciate all you do for our country. We're proud of you, and we sincerely appreciate you protecting our freedom. You may not know that his wife Mandy is a 1999 graduate of Stow Munroe Falls High School, and their baby girl right over there. Taylor was born 1 month after he returned from Afghanistan. Thank you again so much for the board.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
But truly, from the depths of my heart, I do thank everybody for helping out. Couldn't have done it without you. The mental support, morale back home. You may not get many thanks, so this is me coming out and thanking you guys. Because what you guys are doing on the home front, you don't get any credit for everything that you guys do. So thank you.
Thank
And no pressure, Linda. Tough act to follow. In all sincerity, again, we appreciate Lance Corporal Coy presentation for all that you do. But equally, we're also proud of things happening internally in our school district, and my colleague, Mrs. Baldwin, is yet again about to receive another award for her financial accounting and making sure that our district's finances are handled appropriately, and we're all very proud of that. And here to present the GFOA recognition is Linda M. Hine, who is treasurer of Kenston Local School District and trustee of the Ohio Government Finance Officers Association.
Good evening.
It doesn't sound like it. It's a lot of my voice.
I think I'm okay.
Just like didn't.
Madam President, Dr. John, Kathy Wilker, your colleague, and her staff consisting of Sue Irving, Joanne Osplin, Bobby Enright, Beth Haas, and Deb Holly. Congratulations on preparing and disseminating such a wonderful report. I don't have time to read the entire 146 pages, but I will tell you that I'm in the middle of doing mine as well right now, and it takes a lot of time, and it's quite an effort for the entire office and for Kathy and anybody else that is involved with the presentation of the financial reports. Tonight's presentation is an honor for me, as I understand that this children has been receiving this award since 2005. And so that is quite an honor, and it's something to thank you. And this, I'm sure, was maybe in the office of the Joe on behalf of the GFO, I'm here to present the certificate of achievement for excellence to be Stow and Munroe and the Certificate of Achievement program has been in operation since 1946. I wasn't around then, but I'm sure there are a few of us who were. And it is for the purpose, okay.
It's an inside joke.
It's to encourage and assist our governments to prepare financial reports of the highest quality. And it is of vital interest in the government's finances that Board of Education and the Treasurer and the authorities. To earn the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, Kathy and her staff have substantially conformed to the program's main criteria, which will go way beyond the minimum requirements of the GAAP process. Program participants submit copies of their CAFR, which is this, again, the Comprehensive Financial Report, to the Certificate of Achievement Program for an in-depth review and evaluation. It involves members of an impartial government panel, independent public accountants, educators, and other specialized expertise in government accounting. And of course, GFOA hopes that this award will instill in others to take on what Kathy has done, and we do it at as well, but a lot of places don't do it. There are only about 315 entities in the state of Ohio that receive this award, and there are plenty of government entities that should be. So it's very important to understand that this is a really honored award, and it is cherished among all of us in the profession. And it is my honor tonight to congratulate you on your work.
I really appreciate Linda coming out here to award this. This is quite an honor. And of course, this is not just my award. This award could not happen without the support of the superintendent, the board, the administration, and of course, my staff. So thank you all.
One challenge, and that would be to see how fast it is to get yours up.
You got it. Thank you, Linda. Much appreciated.
you. Oh, it's there. It's there.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're good.
Thank you very much for coming.
Whoa. Don't ruin it. Linda's on her way to dinner.
In Stow or Munroe call?
Oh, it's okay, good.
Sorry about that. Okay, well, I'm coming over to this one.
I don't think that mic is even working. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone and board. You have received this in your mail, and I'm sure that you've had time to review it. This evening's forecast presentation will be a little bit more detailed than has been in the past. It's in an effort to hopefully answer some of the questions that we've been hearing lately. As you know, we're on the ballot for a levy just in a few weeks from now, and it's a very important levy for us, and this will help us understand the state of the finances of the district. To start with, I'm going to start out by highlighting first some of the highlights that affect the revenue. Starting with the Stow real estate valuation estimates, and they are reflecting a decrease. Important to keep in mind, the 2011 calendar year was a year of update for your values. On average, in our county and in Stow, we are looking at a reduction in values on average of 7.89%. The real estate assumptions will reflect that, and we'll get to that in a minute. So I want you to keep that in mind. That's one of the big changes in this year's, in fiscal year 2012, this school year's forecast. Governor Kasek's executive budget. How you're going to feel when you see the bottom line. Okay, can you hear me now? No, I know. That's probably a good idea. Yeah, that's just a prelude to what you're going to sound like when you get done. I always laugh about the government making this the October 31st submission deadline, and that's because it's Halloween, and it's scary. And I'm sure we're not the only school district in Ohio that is looking at something very scary right now. So, Governor Kasek's executive budget accelerates the phase-out of the tangible personal property reimbursement. Tangible personal property has historically been taxes paid by businesses for manufacturing, equipment, and inventory. That started to phase out in 2095, or 2005, House Bill 95 accelerated the phase out, and then Governor Strickland put into his biennium to hold it. It was to phase out by 2010. He put a stay on that to not only stay during his term, but for the next term. Governor Kasich, unfortunately, repealed that law. So we are impacted where it's accelerated even further this year. That's another item that will be reflected in the details. There's a reduction in other revenue, reduction over last year. And it backs out one-time receipts for restitution of property, state tuition adjustments, and things like that that we can't plan on getting this year. So that you will see a reduction in other revenue. On November 8th, the district is asking for a 6.57 mil additional emergency levy. It is modeled on line 13.02 in fiscal year 12. And there are two renewal levies modeled in this forecast. The first one is a 7.3 mil levy that expires in calendar year 12 for collection in 2013. It's modeled because we'll get half of the collections. It's modeled in FY 2014 on line 1101 for the second half. 4.6 mils expires in calendar year 2015 for collection in calendar year 2016. Those are modeled on same line, 11.01, but it's added to the proceeds from the first one in fiscal year 2016. This year, fiscal 2012, is considered the first year, or what I call the base year, for the forecast and the projection. So to start with, I take the forecast, cut it in half, revenues. We'll go through the revenues first, the second half are the expenditures, and then I do a summary page, and we review by one. The actual revenues for 2009, 2010, and 2011 are presented for general property tax right here. And you can see they're fairly similar until you get to 2012, you see a little bit of a reduction. I want to share with you the reduction. First of all, when the county collects taxes, they're collecting inside and outside mills. Outside mills, the term outside mills refers to voted mills. Inside mills refers to unvoted mills. And for our county, there are 10 mills. It's called the 10 mill limitation. Those 10 mills are reflective on your total value, and they're split between all the political subdivisions, the city, the library, the school district. And our inside mills collect for us, out of the 10, we are due 5.4 of those. 0.66 of those are set aside and go into a permanent improvement fund, and those are used for a restricted purpose. The other 4.74 do go into our general operating fund, and they are reflected in this line item. You see a reduction right here. I'd like to share with you how that looks based on the fact that our values reduced. The values for the first time as far back as I could see in Stow reduced this update year. And because of that, calendar year 2011 for collection year in 012 is in class 1, which is our residential agricultural property, and class 2 is effective, which is our commercial industrial. So you see this split actually over fiscal year 2012 and 13. In 2014 and 15, the assumptions do reflect an increase for the values. We're assuming a 1% increase in residential, agricultural or class 1 property, and a 1% increase in commercial industrial. So there you see those reflected down there as an increase, not a decrease. So to go back to our actual and forecasted, here's our tangible property. And you see that decreasing. It is decreasing because of the phase out that we've talked about. Governor Kasich accelerated the phase out. And where you see that is since 05, the businesses have not been paying it. The phase-out has affected them, so they have not had to pay it. However, the state has reimbursed us. So for the loss you see here, you see an increase here in this line item. Property tax allocation line item is reference to the homestead and rollback money. Rollback is a 10% and 2.5% that the state reimburses the district for taxes that you pay. When we calculated your 6.57 mil levy, what it would cost you, we take that times 87.5% because the state will reimburse us that difference. That comes into this line item. For anyone 65 years and older, or on disability age 59 and a half and older, you receive an exemption from the state, and the state reimburses us for that exempted property. That comes in right here as well. What you're seeing is, as the state was holding us harmless through 2010, you saw that this was increasing. Now that's beginning to phase out, and Governor Kasich has accelerated that phase out. We're going to lose over $600,000 this year in that acceleration. And I also have a table here for you to just look at what's happened in Stow since 2001, 2002 fiscal year. Your tangible assessed values are the taxable values, and they were coming in at $711 million. Our property tax revenues from that, your public utility was at $784 million. To date, we're still receiving public utility money. That's why you still see numbers on that forecast under tangible property. But here's how much we were getting in revenues then. Look at how much, as we go down into this past fiscal year that ended June 30th, the tangible property here was at $980 million, almost $1 billion in tangible property in this community. And public utilities, almost $1 billion. Look how much the school district's getting this year. That's what's happening, and it's been happening over a period of time. What you really can't see is what if the phase-out had not started back here. You can't see how much the district would have warranted as your tangible values increase, because our dollars were unable to increase because they were phasing out. So that's an important impact that is happening over time. This is an annual amount. It's not a one-time shot, 2.3 million here, 2.7 million, 3.2 million. These are not one-time shots. These are each and every year. And what has happened to school districts throughout Ohio is it's forced us back out to the local community to fund us faster. Okay, so we have 3 lines on our forecast that reflect the actual real estate values in this community. They're line 1.01, 1.02, and 1.05. So those 3 together give you the taxable or real estate income that we receive. To move on, line 1.35, unrestricted grants and aid, and the restricted grants and aid combined are the state's foundation or funding to the district. These dollars have been based on the entitlement of the school district, based on number of enrollment, number of students enrolled, based on full-time equivalency status, and a basic aid rate per student. From that, the state has taken away the local share. The local share is calculated by taking the community's value. So as your value has continued to increase, they're taking away more money from what the state is calculating we're entitled to, because they're saying you're getting it in the local share. So what you see here, and we've talked about this, or if you haven't been to any of our discussions about state funding, What has happened since '05 in this district is the state put in place what they call guarantee. It's under different names, but basically it guarantees that when they do the math, the number of enrollments times the basic aid rate, and they take away the local share, if the difference for your calculation in this year is less than what you got last year, they guarantee to give you what you got last year. This district has effectively gotten the same money since '05 because that's what it got last year. And you can see that if you add these two together as you go through here. In Governor Strickland's term, 010 and 011 fiscal year, the state fell short on its revenues. When it did that, Governor Strickland applied for American Recovery and Reinvestment Act money, thankfully, and he received it. With that, he funded what we were entitled to because he didn't have enough in the state coffers. What happened to the unrestricted line item is it reduced because the amount he was giving us in that money, ARA money, was put under restricted. And that's what's reflected there. That's why you see an increase there. Now Governor Kasich's budget has taken that away. We no longer are getting the amount we were getting from ARA. We are projecting to get this, and this is our restricted grant and aid money, which specifically has to be spent for a restricted purpose, and those purposes are for career technical education, and it's for funding instructional supplies. If we don't use it for that, we could potentially have to give it back. And the other part of that is for what we call catastrophic aid reimbursement. Catastrophic aid is given to districts that spend over a certain amount of money annually for the education of a special education student. So we file for those monies based on how much we spent last year. And that's projected throughout the forecast. Again, this is our base year. Here's all other revenue. Here's, remember I mentioned that throughout the forecast, there's a one-time shot of money that came in 011 that is not to be anticipated in 012. To move on further, under other financing sources, we have a transfer in line item, which specifically is for monies that might be transferred into the general fund, and advances in. Advances in are the return of money from the prior year that had to be advanced out in order for the district to close its books on June 30th. The law will not allow us to close the books if any of our funds, we have federal restricted grant funds, are in the red. So, therefore, we have to advance out money at the close of the year, and that money's usually in transit. Once we receive it, it's advanced back into the general fund. So it's not actually additional operating money for us, it's just returning funds that we paid last year. And these numbers will reflect whatever went out last year, and you'll see that later in the expenditures. Here are our revenues. Actually, in 09, 010, and 011. Here's what we're forecasting in 012. Again, fiscal year 012 is this fiscal year. This base year of our projections. This is just a little preview for you to give you a shot of comparison of state funding in 2003, 2009, and 2012. I picked those years because there were 3 different funding methodologies in those years. Regardless of that, here's our assessed valuation in 03, and here's our fiscal year. Here's our fiscal year 012 valuation. Look how much it's increased, and what that does again in these calculations on the state takes away more money because, not because we're getting more,
But because our values increase, we have the potential to get more. Here was the per pupil basic aid rate in 03, 09, and 012. And in that span of time, 9 years, look how much it's gone up. Our total foundation, our entitlement, less the local source, the truck, refers to as a charge-off, gave us the total foundation in 03, almost 15 million. In fiscal year 09, 15.2, and in fiscal year 12, 13.5. On top of that, we did get preschool funding and special education, transportation reimbursements for special education costs from the prior year. Here's what we received in total these 3 years, or what we're going to receive. And this is where we're getting hit really hard by the state funding. And you can see that over a period of 9 years, it's less than what we were getting in 03. If you do the math, there's our funded enrollment. If you do the math based on the enrollment and how much we're funded, our per pupil foundation really that came from the state was not this number, it was this number. And this year, it's not this number, it was this number. In 012, it is projected that even though the state should be funding us, same as 011, which was that number, we're going to end up with the state actually only giving us 2,560 per pupil. And interesting, just for little known, less cared for facts, last year, the state was actually funding our students at 2,662. So look how much it's dropped. Community schools in 03. This number represents resident students leaving our district to be educated by community schools. At this per pupil rate, times that number, that's how much was taken away from us in 03. In 09, 6 years later, we're paying out almost 100,000 more. By 012, we are paying out, we are anticipated to pay out this year over $681,000 to community schools. And that money does not come into our coffers at all. It's taken away from our funding from the state before they send it to us. Open enrollment, these numbers here actually reflect a net. We do bring in students from other districts, so this per pupil amount follows them into our district. We have students leaving, that money goes, and in 03, we had more children leaving our district, going to other districts. That it netted out to be a cost to us. But in 09, we turned the tables. We were bringing in almost identical to what was going out, and actually made a little bit more money. And this year, we're projected to bring in almost $650,000. So that's just a little food for thought about state funding and comparing it over a 9-year span. But yet you see very little in terms of an increase in money for this. Now to go through the projected revenue, the forecasted years. Fiscal year 012 is our base year, to which all of the other years are reflected, or there's a trend applied to the upcoming year, and or information that we may have that's outside of trend is applied to determine these numbers. You see in unrestricted or restricted grants, it's flatlined with after a little bit of a loss here. You see intangible personal property, it's fading away. And property tax allocation, Governor Kasich. This is the impact of the acceleration of the phase out of our tangible personal property. And please keep in mind, general property tax, tangible and property tax allocation are based on our values. In years of 14, we have a renewal.
that cannot be reflected here until it is voted on by and certified by the county. And in 016, we have another renewal. So you will see a decrease in these line items based on the renewal. It will be modeled later in the forecast. Here's our advance in. You'll see an expenditure that was advanced out last year, and it is assumed for the purposes of the forecast to be at around a $750,000 entry each year. Bottom line is, here's our revenue, and they don't look good. So, here's what our revenue looks like in a pie chart. General property tax represents 58% of our total revenue. Tangible property tax, barely a percent, or just a percent. Unrestricted state aid is 26%, and the restricted state aid doesn't even calculate to a full percent. Our property tax allocation represents 10%, 4% in other, and 1% in non-operating. There's your picture though. Where do we lean on? Where do our students in this district lean on to be funded for their education? Now, to move forward, on the second half of the page are the expenses. So to highlight the October expenses, the forecast expenses. In fiscal year 2012, there's a reduction in the salary and benefit line item due to staffing changes, saving us, this district, over $2 million annually. Fiscal years 2012 and 13, employee salary and benefit concessions saving over $1 million annually. Every employee of this district, due to the economic situation and due to the impending deficit projected in these past forecasts, has opted to not receive any increases, and they've increased the amount of money they're paying for their health care this year and next year. Fiscal year 2012 does reflect an additional reduction in benefit cost over last year of approximately over $600,000 for a premium holiday. A premium holiday occurs when, first of all, we're part of a consortium that has a band of school districts involved to receive more competitive rates because we have a bigger pool of participants. As we pay for those premiums over the year, they are applied to and paid for our costs for medical and prescription health care. At the end of the year, it is determined by the powers that be when we have collected more on a premium than we've spent. So they allow that money to carry over and pay our premium for us, which gives us a reprieve for a premium holiday. Last year, unprecedented, we received 2 months of a premium holiday. This year, we received 3 months. So over last year's cost, we saved another over $600,000 for our health care costs. In future years, in the projection, and you'll see this, we can't assume only 9 months of a premium as we move forward. So we have to factor in fiscal year 2013, 3 more months of a premium. It's a hike. It's about a $2 million hike a year. In fiscal year 2012, there are employees that have in the past been paid by grants. Grant funding has been reduced as well as everything else, and it has increased our operating cost for fiscal 12 by approximately $570,000 in salary and benefits. In fiscal year 2012, there's a reduction in supply and capital outlay cost over fiscal year 11 of approximately $370,000. That's because of computer licensing that we paid over a 3-year period, and that has stopped. vehicle and bus purchases that we will not be purchasing this year, but they will be purchased, there will be buses purchased in FY13, and that's reflected in the expenses as well. And another fiscal year 2012 increase over last year of approximately $160,000. That's to account for auditor fees that have increased, election expenses, and textbooks that have gone up. So let's look at our expenses for actual years 2009, 10, and 11. Personal services refers to salaries. That's our biggest line item. And as you see, it is important to note in fiscal years 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2011, every employee in the district was granted, through a negotiated agreement, 2.95% increase on their base salary. And we're also, depending on how many years of service you have here, you received a longevity increase. Over these years, that averaged about 5% over the past year in cost. Yet look at here. We haven't spent more money. How have we done that? We have been reducing and reducing and reducing. In order to absorb those cost increases, we have reduced staffing to keep that flat. In addition to the staffing reductions, our money out of the federal grants, not just what the state gave us, but out of federal grant money, was allowed to be used for salaries of existing staff, which is usually called supplanting and not allowed. And that all comes back to fiscal year 2011 costs. These again are actual, and here's what we're reflecting for 2012. The difference is because we have two things, reduced staff, and there is no increase in fiscal year 2012 whatsoever for any employee. Line 3.02 is your retirement and insurance benefits. By law, the board is required to pay 14% of the gross salaries paid out for every employee. And this line captures that as well as the health insurance costs. Remember, there's health insurance premium holidays here of 2 months. And we also have received a 10% increase in cost. This year, same thing, 10% increase in cost. However, we're saving an additional $600,000 in our insurance benefits. So you see that's a lot less. Both of these are savings this year over last year. Purchase services, trends pretty much the same. Supplies and materials. Purchase services is a category that is that covers the electric bill, the gas bill. Community school students that leave our district and go to other schools are charged to this line item. That's one that is very hard to try to get control of because we don't have control of keeping students here. Supplies and materials. This line item reflects not only instructional supplies in the classroom, but it's also materials and supplies used to keep the school district buildings open, operating, and safe. Capital outlay refers to anything that has a consumable life over 5 years. As you see in 2011, there were buses purchased. You'll see that reflected there. And the reason that you don't see that much in these past years and you won't see in future years, even though we have 10 buildings and they're aging, is because of that .66 inside mills that is designated for permanent improvement use. That generates for the district about $660,000 per year, and that's used to maintain those buildings and keep them and purchase things like roofing, asphalt, desks, and other equipment, technology equipment. You'll see those in that line item. There is a debt payment that is noted as well as the interest, and our total expenditures actually for 09, 10, and 11, 49,500,000, 49,300,000, 52,284,000, and this year we're projecting 50 million. In the operating transfer out and advance out, again, these advance out amounts are what the district had to move from its general fund to close the books on June 30th to make up for federal grant money that was returned in the subsequent year. There's our bottom line, and the district has done an incredible job to keep these 3 years, and actually the year prior, 4 years in a row, at almost flatline numbers, despite cost increases. So to look at the forecasted years, again, using 2012 as the base year and applying what we know. We know in 2013, there's no increase in salaries and benefits, or in salaries, and there's a decrease in benefits based on employees paying an additional amount this year or next year over this year. You see this number jump up because this is reflecting 12 months of a premium. This is reflecting 9 months. And then every year throughout the forecast reflects the 12 months of premium. Purchase services reflecting a trend based on an average. Same with supply and materials throughout the forecasted years, and capital outlay. 2013, it is anticipated that 2 buses will be purchased in that year, and that's the reason for that increase. Bottom line, total expenditures, again in FY12, 50 million, almost 800,000. Next year it bumps up to 53 million, almost 54 million. Goes to 56 million for, almost 59 million, and all the way to 62 million by 2016. Here's our expenditures as a percent of total this year. Salary, 61%. Fringes, 21%. Our business is a labor-intensive business, and it's very common in a labor-intensive business to spend 90% of your budget on staff or on labor, which is salary and benefits. We spend 10% for services, 3% for supplies, 2% for equipment, and 1% for other. Here's the summary. Total revenues, actual years, again, are up against our base year. Total expenditures, actual years up against our base year. These are taken from the bottom line, and there's the line numbers. Line 6.01, this is our 5-year forecast. It is used as our planning tool, and this is the line item highlighted that I point the board to, because when we see what it reflects is when we're spending more than it's coming in. In fiscal year 2011, we spent almost $230,000 more than came in, and that's projected to increase to almost, or to over 1.3 million. We're going to spend more this year than can come in. This is why we need a levy. The reason we watch this line item is because we have to plan, because the only way we can get new resources is by asking for a levy. The cycle for collection from when a levy is voted to when it can appear in our coffers takes time. There is a lag, and we have to plan to ask for levies to offset when we're spending more than is coming in. The forecast is pretty basic. You take your revenue, subtract your expenditure, and find out when you're spending more than is coming in. You need to add in the beginning balance. The beginning balance is the ending balance from last year, moved over to this year, 11 and 09, the ending cash. 52 million in revenue minus 50 million in expenditures, plus the beginning cash of 9.7 million brought us to a ending balance of $11,043,086. That is carried over into 010. 010 is approximately, here it is. Look, it's gone. There we go. Okay, anyways, in 2010, there it is, 11,043,086 is our beginning balance. When you take the revenues minus expense and add that to it, your bottom line is 13,292,200. That becomes our beginning balance in 2011, to 13,292,200. You take the revenues, add them to the, or subtract expenses, and then add the beginning balance. Your bottom line is 13,062,625. That's carried over in fiscal 12 as the beginning balance. Revenues minus expense plus beginning balance gives us our ending balance. Now, what's at the bottom here for actual years are encumbrances. By law, for the district to have, or the treasurer to have legal authority to expend more money, and must first be set aside or encumbered. The word encumbered means set aside. Before it can be a legal purchase. So you can't just go to Staples and purchase a stapler. You have to first set it aside. And we do that through a requisition and a purchase order process that is approved by the superintendent, certified by the treasurer that the funds are available, and a purchase order then is generated. It isn't until that point in time that an item can be purchased. These numbers show at June 30th in 09, 010, 11, and what we project in 012 will be sitting aside, already ordered, but not paid for yet by the board. The next line, 11.01, 11.03, and this line 10.01 is also 12.01. Those take the ending cash balance, take away what's set aside, and give us a number that we certify for appropriation, a number that we certify for contracts, and it can include property tax renewals or replacements. And then if you continue down to section 13, this is where we model the property tax. The 6.57 levies on the ballot for November 8, 2011. If it passes, that will affect your calendar year 2011 taxes. You will pay for your 2011 year taxes the first half from January through June. The district gets money. Your bills go out in January of 2012. The district begins getting money somewhere in February, March. And by June 30th, we anticipate, after it's successful, that we will receive this much more money. That will help our bottom line balance that's available or unreserved. And it's called unreserved because this amount, the encumbrances, are somewhat considered reserved. They're set aside. So they are not a part of this bottom line down here. We anticipate with the collection of the half a year 6.57 mil new levy to end with $13.6 million in our coffers. Keep in mind what our total expenses are. And while this year they're low, let's look at forecasted years. Total revenues, not very good. Total expenditures, they're jumping because we only have this year and next where our salary and benefits, we've taken a huge savings on. But even though 2012 and 13 we've taken a huge savings, look at how much more we are projected to spend over what we're going to receive in 012, in 013, 014, 15, and 16. This is why we can't pass a levy fast enough, because we can't get the money in fast enough to help offset that. What happens to that, and why we're not bankrupt yet, is we do have a beginning cash balance. Line 7.01 again, beginning cash. Revenue minus expense plus beginning balance gives us a beginning balance, which is then reflected in the next year's beginning cash. Take away the encumbrance, gives you a balance for appropriation, a balance for contracts, and then our bottom line unreserved fund balance adds in the new levy. With the new levy, this is really important. Well, let's look at the renewals first. Line 11.02 and 014 reflects the incoming of a part of the levy that's expiring up here. And then the full collection, full year collection is reflected in 015. And in 016, it includes not only the 7.3 million levy that expires and starts collecting fiscal 14, but it also includes a 4.6 mil levy that is expiring. And half a year proceeds are reflected in that number in 11.02. Bottom line, with both renewals modeled in line, it says 10.01, the blue line is 12.01. You see, with the proceeds of those renewals being successful, that we are in the red, purely in the red. We don't have a beginning balance tagged to it anymore. That's already gone. Fiscal 15, it is projected over $13 million deficit, period. Fiscal 16, over $26 million deficit as we move forward. This is why this levy passing in a couple weeks from now this year for us to begin collecting in 012 helps our bottom line. It just squeaks us through 016. This is a over $50 million budget. By expenditures, by 016, it's projected to be a $62 million budget. If we only end with a $2.8 million budget, we are in really bad shape here. Really bad shape. And if we were going for any type of rating or anything like that, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, they really expect you to be fiscally responsible, to have at least a minimum of 3 months of expenditures on your bottom line. That is not 3 months at all. So here is just a little income and expense statement I thought I'd just provide for you. What it does is it takes your beginning balances, includes your revenue, adds in your replacement levy, adds in your proposed new levy, and takes away your expenditures, giving you a revenue surplus or deficit. That with the levy, you can see what that bottom line looks like. And then the ending balances for each of those years. Here's what line 6.01 graph looks like with the passage of the levy. And here's what it looks like if it passes in 011. Here's what it looks like with our beginning balances. And as you see, with the beginning balances that we show there, by 016, this is all that's left. Given this levy passes this November for collection starting in January, and given that both renewals also pass. What's the daily cost to educate a student versus a resident share? Because we've done such a great job to hold our costs down here, a daily cost for our students is $49.03. What's the resident share of that daily cost right now today? $19.99. Just a little known for and less cared for fact. For those of you that like pictures, and you've probably got a handout, I've included I've included graphs of each line item that reflect in the red the actual years, and in the blue what the projected years are. And when you see there's not a trend there, that you need to look at the assumptions to see what's happening to those line items. Tangible taxes, what's happening there? They're gone. Property tax allocation and homestead, while these were going down, this is going up. Well, now this is going back down. Here's our state aid. Look what's happening to our unrestricted state aid. When it went down here, restricted went up. Now look at restricted and look at our projections. Look at what we're anticipated to get. This is why we're asking for new money. Other revenue is projected to stay flat, one-time influx last year. Transfers and advances fluctuate, but we have an average factored in for conservative purposes. The salaries, benefits, purchase service, supplies, each line item are graphed by the actual years, by projected years, equipment, other expenses, the transfer out, the general fund debt. And that concludes my presentation of the 5-year forecast. I hope that has been helpful. I'm always available to answer questions. If anybody has anything you need to find out, feel free to call me anytime. Does the board have any questions on are you awake? Sorry for the more detailed, given that the levy is going to be here within a couple of weeks, I think it's most important that everybody understand what is happening, why we're where we're at, and where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Okay. I wish to recommend that the Board of Education approve the minutes for the following board meetings. September 12, 2011, community meeting, and September 26, 2011, a regular meeting. Moved by Mr. Spangler, second by Mr. Mariola. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Matthews.
Aye.
Mrs. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Spangler.
Aye.
Mrs. Wright. Aye. Mr. Mariola.
Attorney Senator to Mrs. Walker again.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the financial report for September. I wish to recommend the Board of Education approve the financial report for September 2011 as presented in Exhibit Number 1.
So moved. Second. Moved by Mrs. Matthews, second by Mrs. Powers. Roll call.
Mrs. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Spangler.
Aye.
Mrs. Wright.
Aye.
Mr. Mariola.
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews.
Aye.
Item B, check register for September. I wish to recommend the Board of Education approve the check register for September 2011 as presented in Exhibit Number 2.
So moved. Moved by Mrs. Wright, second by Mr. Spangler. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spangler.
Aye.
Mrs. Wright. Aye. Mr. Mariola.
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews.
Aye.
Mrs. Powell.
Aye.
And last but not least, item C, approval of the 5-year forecast. Your approval is sought before the official submission of this to the state, where they will publish it on their website. So I wish to recommend the Board of Education approve the 2012 5-year forecast that you just witnessed this evening.
So moved. Second. Moved by Mrs. Wright, second by Mrs. Matthews. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Wright.
Aye.
Mr. Mariola.
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews.
Aye.
Mrs. Powers.
Aye.
Mr. Spangler.
Aye.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Okay, and we do not have any comments from the audience, is that correct? Thank you. Thank you, Johnson. Dr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I have and those are items A through H on your agenda. There are a couple resignations. One is the result of reduction in force, another is a supplemental, another is because the person is taking another position, which is one of our employment spots that we're asking you to approve. We also have more after-school tutor, some later supplementals. I think the board has information about any of the supplementals that are folks who are new to the district, so that we have the non-certified supplemental resolution, and also some substitutes for both certified and classified, as well as for leaves of absence. So routine type employment matters. So if there are no objections, I'd like to take all those employment items A through H as one motion. I wish to recommend that the Board of Education approves items A through H as listed and directed. So moved.
Moved by Mr. Munroe, second by Mr. Stow. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mariola?
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wright? Aye.
Item I is contract for services. This is Harbor Education Services, known as BOE. This is for two students who have behavioral concerns. We have exhausted our opportunities to try to deal with their specific needs. Their IEP calls for outside service, and there are federal dollars to pay for that. So it's common in 6. So the board approves that contract for services with Harbor Education. So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Munroe, second by Mrs. Powers. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wright? Aye. Mr. Mariola?
Aye. Item J is building use for elections, as typical. When we have elections, the Board of Education requests the use of our school buildings. And on November 8th, of course, there is no school, so it's much easier for us without children being there. But the Board of Education would like to use Echo Hills, Fishbury, Kimpton, Lakeview, Riverview, and Woodland. So I would like to recommend that the Board of Education allows that. We do have a meeting on November 7th, and any cost they will reimburse you. So moved by Judy.
Moved by Mr. Munroe, second by Mr. Stow. Roll call.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wright? Aye. Mr. Mariola?
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews?
And finally, item K are gifts. 2 gifts. We'd like to thank Office Snacks for donating $1,000 worth of school supplies to Woodland Elementary. And also, we'd like to thank Kimpton ESA. They donated 64 student response clickers. I think the board has seen those before, in which there'll be a graphic for students to see and a questions asked, and each student responds. The teacher can tell what the response was from each student. They can tally all the yes responses, no responses, or who picked 1, 2, 3, 4, and get a better sense of what the kids are understanding. We call it check for understanding kids. It's immediate feedback for them. So, yeah,
That's
so it's good stuff. So,
Dr. Jones, what about you know what Woodland is using the $1,000 or?
I think there was a list of supplies.
Was it there?
I don't know if you get that program.
That's what it is, so that's good.
So I'd like to recommend the board accepts these 2 gifts.
So moved by Mrs. Powers and
Second.
Second by Mr. Munroe.
Mr. Spangler?
Aye.
Mrs. Wright? Aye. Mr. Mariola?
Aye.
Mrs. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Powers?
Aye.
That's all I have.
Any more business?
Nothing to add, but just something to put on your radar. If your chance the levy in November is not successful, want to keep you aware of election deadlines for budget election, 57%. So somewhere between there, based on if the levy is unsuccessful, depending on what avenue we take, what type of levy we go for. If we go with an emergency levy, we would have to discuss, it would have to be increased because absent collections for the calendar year 2012, we're in a world of hurt more than what you're looking at today. So I just want to keep those on your radar because decisions will have to be made fairly quickly and we'll have discussion later on.
Let's read that, Jay. Is that going to set in stone, or is the state going to change those dates again? I mean, they could work back and
As
forth.
of today.
As of today. Okay.
Because I think correspondence with what got was, it may change. So stay tuned and that kind of thing. But we should be responsible, we should plan for a March election. As Kathy mentioned, if they get unsuccessful, that's the path we choose.
And thinking more.
With an increase in benefits.
Yes, we need to be thinking more than the $100,000 homeowner paying $16.77. It could be quite a bit more. So there are advantages to this levy if we can get the word out and it gets passed. So,
I think that's important information.
Really
Not really given that information to the community that it's not going to stay the same.
That nut is going to get larger as we go.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
and when we look at the numbers, even starting collections in this year, this fiscal year, we're still 5 years out, looking at barely a $3 million bottom line. That's really, really scary. So
we're spending some good news.
Not the good.
that, we got
We got the good news. There you go.
I have good news. Our boys golf team
That's right.
finished 8th in the state and sophomore. Incredibly, sophomore Ian Holt was, in golf jargon, was the co-medalist. And what that means in my little world was he was the co-state champion of Division I golf in Ohio. We're going to have them at the next board meeting to congratulate them for that. I also heard the Ohio State coaching staff was following him around. He's clearly one of the top sophomore golfers in Ohio.
And that was his birthday. His birthday present.
The other young man was a returning champion and senior.
Yes, same here. Very proud of that.
That was a fun set. That was really, that was good news.
Girls soccer still alive?
Yeah, they're still alive.
Volleyball still alive?
Volleyball's still alive.
Cross country. Is that
They went to district, both boys and girls. I mean, this is awesome. So that we are ending with good news. That's what we want to do.
that deserves it.
I think so.
That is what this is all about, our students.
We have good news. Okay, I don't think we have a need for a possible executive session. So, I move